Alrighty. So I am going to give my input, my insight, my views on this couple right here. Well, this ex-couple, Vaughn and Monet from the TV show, or reality show, I guess it's called, Married at First Sight, where they took random couples and they put them together, and they never knew each other, saw each other, no profile, none of that before they met. They met the day of the wedding, and the only couple who didn't make it, there were two white couples and one black couple, and the black couple didn't make it. And people speculated about that part, saying like that's propaganda, or and there's the fact that people already assume that the show is fake anyways, simply because they're reality shows, and some of it is scripted and whatnot and what have you. So there's all those other scenarios that are going on, but I'm gonna just take it as it is at face value, because the situation, to me, it made sense. Now, I was listening to, which brought me to this story or this show or whatever. I listened to a podcast and they were talking about it, and so I had to try to listen to, even like before even going back and trying to listen to, like, I didn't watch it, I listened to it, I downloaded it and listened to the commentary when I was at work. I knew that they shouldn't have been together from day one, just from hearing the conversation from the people on the podcast or the Blog Talk radio show, even though they were all saying that they should have made it work and they could have stayed together and this and that. I'm like, no. Just the words that I was hearing and the phrases that were being used, I could just tell, like, people are mocking him, calling him a sellout and all that type of stuff, but they were saying like he should have been with a white girl or something like that, or that's what. And then later on in the show, I'm like, yeah, I kind of seems like this personality doesn't seem like he's really into a sister, even though he did ask for one. But she brought up a point later on that he described a woman that looked like Alicia Keys or Paula Patton, and those aren't black women; those are mixed women. So you have to define the race, and that's an example of why you have to define the race, and you can't call mixed women black, because this brother said he wanted a black woman, and she's feeling some type of way because not only does her skin complexion not match those black women, nor does her physique, but or her hair. But yeah, so I'm gonna just give my inputs and my take on it, and why I think they shouldn't have been together in the first place. And I think the guy who was in the blog talk, in the conversation, the blog talk conversation, he had some gems he was hitting them with, but then when it came to the situation, he was just off. He kept accusing Vaughn of being like misogynistic or having the wrong views about marriage and all that, and I think that they both have horrible views of what a traditional relationship is, and that's the basis of the reason why I think they should never been together, is because they have different, like, neither one of them wanted what they claim they wanted, or neither one of them are the person that they need to be to get what they want, put it that way. Neither one of them are. The one thing, and the crazy thing is, the experts kept saying that they're the most compatible and they had the most and liked and all that, and I'm like, nah, I didn't see it. All I know is really that they had both their fathers died when they were young. That's only, and then like they had sexual chemistry. That's about it. But other than that, I didn't see them, meeting eye to eye or whatever. But I'll get into the video real quick.
It's like some of the trust issues between me and you, it kind of stems from maybe not having the most stable lifestyle, or exactly what you were looking for in a mate, right?
Yeah, same issues that we've had in the past are the same issues we have right now.
And kind of like that 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
I'd say you're probably right about that.
Not like, babe, I'm all in this, like just...
No, because that would require me to completely trust you, and I don't.
Vaughn and I, we can have an all-out fight war. We can't explain it, but we can be very angry at each other and still have sex. The next day, I'm probably still pissed at him, but we're fine to function as a married couple in that regard. Maybe I didn't trust you. I'm not saying like that changed, in 24 hours or anything, but what I do know is that I feel better that we talked about it.
Monet and Vaughn have issues. They have a great physical relationship. They get caught up in a lot of arguing, and then they have sex, and then they move on. So that's happening increasingly.
My intentions are never to make you feel like I'm not in this marriage, and your intentions are not to make me feel like I can't trust you from a stability standpoint.
Right.
Both Vaughn and Monet actually say things sometimes that maybe they don't quite mean.
I don't know why you really would be trying to get married right now. It's because I feel like you haven't established yourself as a man That was just my opinion. Maybe those weren't necessarily the choices I would think a man who was looking to settle down would make.
I think like we still really don't see eye to eye there because
You're right.
it's your opinion and
For Vaughn and Monet, it is difficult. They're married. And there's a lot of expectations they both have projected onto their relationship that were really different than reality.
I don't know.
All right, so the first thing that threw me off that said they shouldn't be together was obviously being a black couple too. I guess there is a stigma with black women being with older, a black man that's younger. It's not something you try to build a family with. Like, quiet as kept. You look in the media, pop culture example, yes, reference. You see, Nick Cannon and Mariah, didn't work. Ashton and Demi didn't work. Who else? Tony Parker and Eva Gonzalez, whatever her name is. Like, it didn't work. Like, like this idea that when it comes to marriage and having a family, that a younger guy or the women are going to work out, even though they're not that deep, that far apart. I think youth and beauty does matter. Like, the youth factor does matter. And I said it because it gives the guy more time to have children. Like, he doesn't have to rush out and do it right away. Or if she's young enough, she can get him out the way and then go back and do whatever she wants to do in her career. But, in reality, even if it's not conscious, subconscious, whatever, like in the back of his mind, he knows, and she knows, like, we're going to have some babies soon. And I just think her being older puts more pressure on that clock. And it puts more pressure for him to have him to be where he needs to be financially, which he wasn't, which is my next issue with why I think they should have never been together. They were wrong. The experts were wrong on it doesn't say what she does, but apparently she is successful. She has a career or whatever. It says that he was, 17, went to the military, 11 years later, he's back home now. So, like, that's pretty much what he's been doing, and he's back in civilian life, and he has a job, but it's not obviously not a job that can, or a career where he can provide for his family, which I don't understand how he's saying he wants to be in that traditional role when, he's not there yet. Like, she wanted somebody that she claims was at least, in the driver's seat, knows where he's going, where Vaughn, according to what I've seen from the show, what I've heard actually, he's not even in the car yet. Like, he doesn't even know where he's going, what he's doing. And in that situation, it wouldn't be wise to be trying to take on a family, especially a woman who already has her stuff together. That's just clear as day, like a fail. Like, there's no reason why they should be together. And I know people want to say, oh, well, it's a couple and they're working together and it's a marriage, and like, that's not how it works, right? Like, we know that's not how it works. That sounds good, but that's not how it works. She wanted somebody who was in provider position and she could trust him, and she can go, be a mom and take time off work and do all that stuff. And that's not gonna happen with him not in a financial position where she can trust him to do that. So that's like my second reason though. Like, she wanted to be in a traditional relationship, and I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to do that when she makes more than you and your income can't sustain a family, and she's ready to do that, and she's probably going to want to take time off to deal with her children and raise them. So to me, that was just strike number 2 on why they should have never been together. And she straight up told the man, and I don't know what episode it was, but she straight up said, like, I don't even understand why you're trying to be a husband. You're not in a position. Like, that right there is no going further. There's no working that out. Like, that right there is, on one, he can't provide. 2, she can't trust him. So there's no working that out. Like, he's not going to get to be where he's supposed to be, within the next 2-3 years so she can start having babies. Like, it's not going to happen like that. So, that alone right there to me said they should have been done. Like, there was no point in putting them together from the quote-unquote experts. I think that, she should have been with someone slightly older than who's already established, a guy who was already established, possibly a guy who's already been married, already had children, or divorced, whatever, but someone who's older than her in a position where he could, he's cool with, her having her career, but she can, if she wants, take time off, do what she wants to do, and someone who's, at the point where he, because she's like the, I need to go to brunch and do all that type of things, type of stuff, where he's cool with letting her go. Because I don't see any guy wanting to do what Monet was doing to him, which is kind of, you know, I would have a problem with it myself. Like, you know, I want you to come meet my friends and go to brunch with us. I'm like, well, are there going to be other guys there? Are their husbands or boyfriends going to be there too? Like, if not, I'd feel weird being in that situation too. And he's more of a person like, let's just stay home and let's be with each other. And she's like, no, we got to get out and go do stuff. You know, I'm a people person. And, you know, the whole extrovert situation going on right there. And yes, the opposites attract, but I guess, like Vaughn was saying, it was too much too soon. I mean, he should have met her friends for the first time at least once, but I could see, like, that's part of who she is. Like, she's the, you know, let's go do brunch, let's go out and eat and do this and do that. And, like, to me, I'm not that type of person myself. But I'm saying a person who's older, an older cat, you know, who's been there, he might, you know, understand that and be cool with it, or he'll put her at a place to where she's comfortable, you know, where he, you know, he's not needy as Vaughn was, to let her go do that on her own. That's just my opinion on it. I think he should have been with somebody who was younger than him. Like I said, it gives him time to get his stuff together, and someone who else is trying to build a life, like somebody who is in his financial position where they're still trying to figure out what they want to do, or they know where they're going, but it's just going to take some time to get there. That would make more sense for him to build with something. He said something about how, you know, he was, you know, he liked the fact that she had her own business and stuff, and how guys, you know, a lot of girls aren't really doing nothing, but they still expect to want to be with the man and all that. And I'm like, yeah, but you can try to find a girl who is looking for someone who you can build with together, right? Like, I don't know. A question was asked that I don't even understand why it was asked, but it was like, why is it hard for a woman to, a man to take a woman who's more successful than he is and listen to his advice? And I got, you know, the comments from the Facebook and all kind of weird, and even from the broadcast, like, you know, like, it was just, I'm like this, like, let's keep it 100. And this is Sergeant Willie Pete's point. Like, he'll be happy, even though I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he would like this and that, this situation right here that I'm about to use, that he uses too. But let's just say she did build him up, and he took her advice, and he became that man that she wanted him to be. He's not going to find fulfillment in that, because he knows that everything he's done, he has to attribute to her. And she's not going to do that because she built him. She created him. So how can she respect him when he wasn't the man he needed to be on his own? And that might sound, you know, too simplistic for some to understand, but from my perspective, if a woman is there with you and she's the one that's building you, and she's the one that got you, like, she trained you up to be that man, that nonsense that some women say, you know, she's not going to truly respect you, because it was on her terms and it was under her authority. And that's not, you know, a man doesn't lead that way. He needs to do it on his own. So simply based off that, that's probably why he couldn't take her advice or, you know, do all that, because it would probably make her feel like she's being a mother to him and all other stuff. So I just think that narrative, that's why, you know, it wouldn't have worked out if she, you know, put her, as the female Candace would say, her strong personality on him, and which to me means something totally different. But I just don't, I'm not buying that. Like, she's not going to respect him if she, you know, interjects in his financial life and all that. She's looking for a guy who's already got that, already been there, done that, not someone she has to build up, you know. And maybe he's probably looking for that type of thing, but that contradicts his whole I want to be in a traditional relationship situation, because it don't work like that. So that's his point too. The age difference, you know, and then the fact that he's not in the driver's seat right now. He's not in a situation where he can take over and be like, yo, I got this. He can't do that. You know, things are going to be done on her dime, and she obviously doesn't want that. We talk about traditional roles, and I think Vaughn is probably messed up because of the fact that he said that his mom, you know, she made more money than my dad, and she never threw it in his face, and yada, yada, yada. Well, one, I'm saying his dad died, so he wasn't there forever, so you don't know how, you know, what went on, you know, what else would have went on besides that. And same with her father died, and she claims that, you know, my dad was a traditional, you know, head of the household type of guy, but he never, you know, told my mom to cook. And I'm like, well, back then they had clear defined roles. She knew what she expected of him as being a provider, and he knew what he expected of her as being a caretaker. and the roles were defined, and it was that simple. He didn't have to tell her to go do this, and she didn't have to tell him, you need to step your game up. So, and I think that to point out Vaughn's, I think his mom probably confused him with the whole, because again, he doesn't know what happened behind closed door, and his father didn't live long enough to see how that played out either. Like, she could have been resentful of him being in that position, and I say that because I think she told Monet about how men need this and men need that, and you don't have to mean it, just act like it. So when a woman's telling her daughter-in-law to, like, you don't have to truly be genuine about your feelings and how you're expressing to cater to his needs, just do it because he needs it. It makes me say she's saying that from experience, and she knows that she couldn't, she wasn't going to throw in or use the fact that she made more money than her husband to in an argument or a debate or throw in his face. So I think Vaughn's confused about that traditional situation because his mother was in a superior position than his father, and she never threw it in his face. But again, like I said, he didn't live through his whole life. He died when he was a kid, and who knows what would have happened if he was alive and she could have seen it, especially if they had to go through any struggles or anything like that. Like, it would have probably played out differently. So, but I think he is warped from that experience. Like, not a lot of women are that, I should say, have that much integrity to not throw it in the face, because that's the problem, right? Like, when I was growing up, the narrative was that men are just intimidated by successful women, and men just can't deal with a wife who makes more money than him. And then now you have men like, cool, I don't care, you can make more money, like, it's not a problem. But now men are being like, oh, you're not a real man because you're letting her make more, or she's out there, bringing home the bread, and you should be taking 2-3 jobs, so she shouldn't have to do what she's doing, even though she was doing it before he met him, and she went to school for it, and she's all in kinds of debt for it, which, off topic a little bit, but I don't get that. So now men expect women to work and contribute, unlike in the past, and in this generation of women is criticizing men for doing that. Whereas in the past, when women wanted to work and wanted to do stuff out the house, men were like, no, I got this. And then women were like, oh, that's sexist and chauvinistic and controlling and what have you. Yeah, you got what you paid for now. All right, now the pendulum has swung too far and it's been overcorrected. And now men expect women to work and contribute outside the home. I think that, I put it like this. I think you should have those discussions ahead of time in your relationship. If you want to be a stay-at-home wife and all that, you need to have discuss that. Like, first of all, if you want to be a stay-at-home wife, you need to marry a stay-at-work husband. That's first. So you can't be like, I just think that's my personal opinion, I think that's a young woman's game, or a woman who might be older, but she's going to get with a much older man. Youth and beauty matters when it comes to this concept, right? He's not going to go out, a guy at 30 is not going to really look for a woman who's in her 30s, who's been, in other relationships, who's been possibly had children, who's got a crazy amount of student loan debt or consumer debt, and be like, I want you to come stay home and be a stay-home mom, and yada, yada. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, I think that two young people who get together at 20 and say, this is what we're going to do, I'm going to work and you can go to school, meaning her, and then, vice versa and all that. I listened to Dave Ramsey for years, and I've seen that scenario happen where, the father will be like, the woman would meet their husband in college or while she was in college. Not necessarily he was in there too, because sometimes the guy's just a blue-collar worker, electrician, a plumber, what have you, or in the military a lot of times was the scenario. But, they had a plan, and then, boom, she gets pregnant while she's in college or when she finishes. And they're like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. But then, like, my personal opinion is, like, you can't just drop that on me. Like, you can't just do that out of the whim. You got to, of course, most pregnancies aren't planned. They just happen, in a marriage even. But, like, you have to talk about those things ahead of time. You can't just, I'm going to drop everything I'm doing and my $35,000 in student loan debt, that responsibility is all on you now. Like, no. I don't agree with that narrative at all. But I think if two young people have a plan and say, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna wait until we get finished with school or clean up some of our debt, or I'm gonna go to school and possibly work a little bit, and then boom, if a baby does come up, I want to focus on being there for my kid, and you might have to step your game up as a man. But that's cool if it's a discussion about it up front and when you're young. But I just don't see this narrative where women think that, men 30 plus are going to be on some like, just stay at home, I'll take care of everything, and I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to cover, all the expenses and all the debt that you've accumulated from your own personal life. I just don't, that's not practical at all, right? So that's just my take on that. That's off topic a little bit, but that's just my take. If you want that type of traditional situation, you need to do that when you're younger, not pulling 30, pushing 40. Like, to me, it doesn't work. The only time I see that does work is when the female marries a guy who's already established and he's much older than her. A girl I grew up with, like, she was like 32, and she married a dude that was like 60-something. I think he's older than her dad a little bit, I think. And, like, the things that, he took her, like, the man damn near spent his pension, I'm joking, but it seemed like it. Like, their honeymoon, I don't see any guy, in her circle being able to provide the things that he did at that age, at her age. They went to Greece and all other places, and then when they came back, they traveled from, basically drove from the West Coast to the East Coast, just stopping at hotels. But I'm saying, the average cat can't do that at her age. The average dude can't do that, provide those things for her. So if you want those type of things, you might look to see a guy who's already older and more established, and he can provide those things. That's just my take on it because of the age situation. So just to recap again, I think that 1, it was the age difference. 2, it was the fact that he's not in a position of being a provider. My third thing, I was talking about how, and 2, is that they both had warped ideas of what traditionalism is. I think where Monet messes up is that the whole catering to a man and the cooking thing, right? She said, well, my mom never got asked to cook whatever, and she said she didn't cook. And I'm like, well, the experts looked at that situation. What about a woman who can't cook is a traditional situation? What about that is? What about a man who is not financially already stable is, a traditional role? Like, just those points right there, just to me says, like, what the hell were you doing? You were sabotaging them from the get-go. They had no business being together for those things, but she didn't want to cook, or she didn't want to be, like, dependent upon to be cooking. She wants to come home from work and relax and chill. She probably, like I said, met her girl for brunch or lunch or whatever before she came home, on the way home, and she did all that outside the home. And, he thinks she's going to go out and work and do all that and come home and cook. That's the one thing I do, I agree with. If okay, she wants a patriarchy. Right now, if they would have got married, it would have been a matriarchy. But the middle situation is, to me, the egalitarian situation where roles and positions are split. And he said that when they moved in together, that they would split things down the middle, and then a lot of women have problems with that idea. Like, whenever a relationship is set up like that, women will be like, well, y'all not married, y'all just roommates. I'm like, come on. Whatever, but that's the narrative. But she agreed to that. She didn't want to put, everything on him off the bat like that. She just said that, we'll split everything down the middle. But, the idea of her coming home to cook every day, while working, like, that's not practical. Like, I'll say Vaughn is a fail for that one. Like, if he expected that to his mom, even though growing up, my grandparents raised me, my grandmother still had food on the table. If she had to work Sundays, she cooked Saturday night. So she still did her role as a wife and a woman, and cooked and all that, and all that. And for the most part, mostly, and a lot of Sundays we did go out to eat the Ponderosa and stuff like that. But I'm saying, they didn't have a patriarchal relationship. No, they didn't. And I think that this is a different topic, but I think it's difficult for there to be one when the woman is in a financial position over the guy, when she's older than the guy, and also when, she has children from a previous marriage relationship. And generally, the guy jumps on her terms, and her situation goes into her environment where she already laid a foundation, and he's not going to be able to come in and take that over. So that's why I think that, like, that's not practical for, in that situation, which was my grandparents' situation. But I think that Vaughn he'd be wrong to expect her to come home and cook and do all those things. I think that that's something that would be shared. Now, if he was taking on the bulk of the responsibilities financially, and she wasn't working as much, then he can expect it. If she's working part-time, or if, he gave her the ability to be more laxed and not strive more for her career or whatever, then I would say, yeah, then, you can kind of expect it. Like, I'm not going to work 78 hours a week, come home and you're not cooking, and I'm alleviating you from having to work as hard as you do, or, spend as much time at your job as you do. That would be a problem. But as it stands now, Vaughn should be the one coming home cooking, not Monet. Or they should be cooking together, which seems more practical. But this idea of her, working like she does and him wanting her to do all that, I think he's a fail for that. One thing that Monet did that kind of not bothered me, but it kind of was like, they didn't work out on the show. So, but she said that, I had no problem. They had sexual chemistry, right? They would have sex and break up. Well, and after they have their arguments and all that, so they had no problem in that department. Her friend kept making jokes about her wearing white on wedding day. So to me, it seems like she's a sexually liberated woman, and she's free to do all that. But what got me was when she was like, "Yeah, we can do it, but that doesn't mean I'm connected to you." So she was saying that, like, the physical and the sex was good and all that, she could do that, but she couldn't open up to him, to where on an emotional level, because she couldn't trust him financially. So it's like, to me, it's like, that's not something wise to be telling the world. That this is my opinion, that, there's no emotional connection from having the sex, but his lack of ability to provide, it dried the sugar walls all up. But you can still have sex with him even though he doesn't do it for you as a protector and a provider and a leader. So I'm just saying, like, that's, to me, just his personal opinion, that she shouldn't have voiced that, right? Like, because it kind of brings out the narrative that women can pick guys that aren't in the position to do what they're supposed to do, and she can give it up, and then in reality, sometimes kids happen and everything else like that happens, and then the relationship doesn't work out and then you're by yourself. Meanwhile, the type of man you want, the type of man you need, and you should be trying to focus on that and not just, giving yourself away physically to men who can't provide those things when that's what you want, that's what you need to respect and to open up emotionally to. So I just think that was just odd that she voiced that so easily, like, you don't do it for me on the emotional level. I don't trust you because you're not in the position to be in the driver's seat, so we can do it and have all kinds of hot, steamy sex, but I'm not going to open up to you emotionally until you get your money, get him up. Like, to me, that was something she should have kept to herself. She shouldn't have revealed that to the world, that she can get it on with somebody she doesn't respect financially. That's just my opinion.